Hi, and welcome to Hedge Fund Manager. I'm Karl-Mikael Syding. Today's deep dive is a company called Finviz, or Comfort Systems. So Finviz is an engineering and industrial company. They make heating systems, any kind of electrical work, maintenance, etc. for various types of real estate, and both industrial and residential applications. And I actually found the company. You know the structure now in Deep Dive. We do a search and find and screening to find interesting companies to do research on, and then we do the technical analysis to make sure that it's at least not a worse than average timing. And then it's time for the fundamental analysis using discounted cash flows, or P equals F times V, you know, where we break down the price, the value, the market price into the fundamentals of the company and the valuation. You can call it the facts and the fiction if you like. And then finally we put it all together in a total context with the valuation as one part and risk as another, comparing risk-adjusted returns and the total case with other companies that we have over the time collected in a watch list or a short list of interesting stocks to track. So for today's screening, I actually simply went with a stock tip from one of the students in the investing course, who had made a really good 5-page case of Comfort Systems that I thought was quite intriguing, and I wanted to make my own checkup of the company using our P equals F times V method here in a deep dive. But just because you get a tip, a stock tip, does not mean that you shouldn't do the work, including the screening and finding and comparing with peers or companies that are in certain respects similar to the company you got a tip on. The reason is that even if you get a tip like I did for Comfort Systems, once you start digging into similar companies, you might find something that is even better, even with just a little digging, not actually digging at all, but just doing a screen in one of these free online resources. Like, for example, Finviz, that I recommend you use for its simplicity and ease of use, and also, not least, that it's free. Anyway, I got a tip for Finviz, and I used Finviz to just get a first quick overview of the company Finviz. I use Finviz here, enter Finviz. You immediately see what the share price is doing. Recently it's been more or less flat, you might say, but you can see also that in about a year's time it's actually up by 50%, despite crashing down like this spring over the tariff scares. You also get this quick overview of all kinds of key ratios. You can see that the market cap is about $16 billion, so this would be like a small to maybe mid-sized company from a US perspective, but a pretty large one from some of the smaller European countries, like the Nordic countries, for example. You can also see here that it has a top price earnings rating of 27 times, so it's sniffing up there to 2 times the historical market average, the hammer key ratio, historical average market multiple, a hammer. You can remember that hammer. And when you want to compare a certain stock to the market. We will not go into the details of these key ratios. I'm just showing that in Finviz you can always get just a quick overview of some of the most important key ratios and get an idea of what type of quality company this is. And not least if you look here, for example, at return on assets and return on equity of 38%. That's a tremendously good number that definitely warrants more investigation. I mean, because if this is something that they keep doing, if they have a long history of return on equities of this at this level, then this is really a star company. And in any case, a sustainable 38% return on equity usually would warrant a much higher than 27 times price earnings ratio, because they create so much excess surplus capital that they can use for investing and growing, and that's they probably should be valued at more than 2 times the average market multiple. But that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Here's another way of screening. It's using the bubble map function in Finviz. You click here on maps and you choose bubbles rather than the usual map function. Using bubbles, we can compare a lot of different variables at the same time, but I have prepared a specific setup here where I, on the x-axis, put return on equities. The farther to the right, the better returns they are creating on their invested equity. On the y-axis, I have price earnings growth rate ratio. So the price earnings number divided with the growth rate in annual percentage is. So if you have a high PEG ratio, then you're expensive in relation to your growth rate. So if you're far down, then you're pretty cheap from a PEG perspective. And as you can see here, you have Comfort Systems almost to the absolute bottom level in this chart. So that makes it cheap in terms of price earnings ratio versus the growth ratio. And this is often a really good indication. But as we discussed before, you cannot rely on PEG alone. But here we have a high return on equity, far to the right, and a low PEG ratio. But we can also see here, there is another similar company right up here, close to it. It's called MCore Group, and it has a return on equity of 38%, as you can tell, a PEG of 2.34, market cap of 20 billion, and 1 year share price performance of 20%. Fix has very similar numbers. That's why they are so close to each other in this chart. But it has a 1 year performance of 30%, so it's a bit better even than MCore. And it's slightly smaller at a market cap of 16 billion. The interesting thing with this chart is not these exact numbers, but it's that the possibility to combine return on equity with PEG, with market capitalization. It's the size of the bubble. If you want to find a big company or a small company, you immediately see which one that is. 1 year performance is the color. So these red ones have a bad performance. They have a negative 1 year performance, and the green ones, the brighter the green, as you can see here in the legend down here, the stronger the 1 year performance. And I've also simply filtered for industrials as a sector and engineering as the industry. And I've also filtered for a market cap of over $2 billion US. So I wanted to exclude the very tiny ones. But this type of bubble sorting is something that I highly recommend for combining a lot of variables at the same time. And you can, of course, choose and change which variables you want to compare. So that's it for the filtering. You can see how Comfort Systems and MCore are two of the ones that stand out a lot in this picture and warrants investigation. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to dive deeper into Comfort Systems Fix.